Now our top story this hour in the latest turn of events in the Iran-Israel conflict. Foreign ministers from the Organisation of Islamic Cooperation have assembled in Istanbul, with the Arab League's extraordinary ministerial council also set to meet ahead of the summit. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi is taking part in both sessions, where Israel's strikes on Iran are high on the agenda. Araghchi has just issued a fresh statement. Let's hear what he had to say.
What we are doing right now is the exercise of our legitimate right for self-defense against the act of aggression, which is done against us unprovoked and in a very brutal way. In order for us to come back to diplomacy, the aggression should be stopped. It is obvious I cannot go to negotiation with the United States when our people are under bombardments, under the support of the United States.
Israel has carried out a second strike on Iran's Isfahan nuclear site. According to a military official, the latest overnight attack has further damaged the facility and dealt a heavy blow to Iran's centrifuge production capabilities. This marks the second time Isfahan has been targeted since the war began. Meanwhile, tensions flared in northern Israel after a drone struck a two-story residential building in the Beit Shean Valley. First responders from Magen David Adom rushed to the scene but reported no casualties. In another strategic strike, Israel confirmed it has killed Saeed Izzadi, a senior Iranian officer and key coordinator between the Iranian regime and Hamas. The strike took place in the city of Qom, south of Tehran. Izzadi headed the QUDS's Forces Palestine Corps and was responsible for military coordination with the Palestinian militant group. As the war drags on, regional leaders are sounding the alarm. A senior UAE official, Anwar Gargash, has called for an urgent end to the fighting. Speaking to reporters, he warned that a prolonged war could bring serious consequences for the entire Gulf region. We're now joined by our guest, Professor Madav Naliphat, who's the editor of the Sunday Guardian and based in New Delhi. Professor Naliphat, thank you very much for joining us. Professor Naliphat, these updates are coming in hourly, it seems. A to and fro of missiles and drones between mainly Tehran and Tel Aviv, other areas obviously being hit as well. But what we're focusing on here is the strikes on Iran's Isfahan nuclear site. Do you think Israel is still defending, or is it now taking the fight deep inside Iran and risking more of a regional firestorm?
Look, I'm not sure about a regional firestorm. I don't think any other country in the region, even including Qatar, is at all in a hurry to join the firestorm. I don't think so. But the reality is Israel is not going to stop. It is not going to stop until it has completely destroyed the Iranian nuclear program. And no matter how long that takes, I don't think, judging by the rate the Israelis are going, it will take more than a few weeks more. But they're not going to stop until they do that. And whether it's the United Nations, which of course naturally is calling for an end to hostilities, or whether the Europeans are telling the Iranians something, they're basically telling them, you please stop without Israel stopping bombardment, which frankly is tantamount to surrender. They may want to stop, but they cannot publicly declare that they're stopping. Their nuclear capabilities. The reality of the situation is that this is going to continue until Israel or Israel and the US together destroy Iran's nuclear capability. Because so long as the clerical regime is in power, the fact is Iranian nuclear, any kind of nuclear capacity on the part of Iran is a threat to all the countries in the region and broader in several parts of the world. So I don't believe the Iranians are going to stop. Basically trying to hit back at Israel in whatever way. because their precondition for talks is Israel must stop the bombing, and Israel is not going to stop the bombing. That's going to continue until all Iranian nuclear facilities are eliminated as a consequence of the clerical regime, basically having long ago, in 1979, declared a war against not just the state of Israel, but the entire Jewish people. So go back to 1979, and that policy has continued till now. Supreme Leader now is equally emphatic on that. So I don't believe this is going to stop anytime soon.
Professor Naliphat, in the backdrop of this, there is diplomacy going on. We saw Iran's top diplomat in Geneva over the past 24 hours negotiating with Europeans. They've also released a statement that as Israel continues its strikes, it won't negotiate with the United States. How effective do you see diplomacy being in this war? There's a lot of conflicts going on in the world right now. Some experts say will be solved with diplomacy. What are your thoughts on the circumstances here?
There's no question of diplomacy. For a simple reason, the Europeans don't have any influence over Israel. The only country with some influence is the United States. And Donald Trump has made it very clear Iran must completely disarm before he is ready to start talks with it. In other words, you first surrender and then we'll talk. I mean, the terms of surrender, whatever it is, the fact of the surrender is going to even more seriously compromise the clerical regime, which is already facing unrest across Iran as a consequence of the economic hardship, not to mention the incessant bombing that they are suffering as a consequence of the clerical regime. So again, the only country that counts is the US, and the US is not going to ask Israel to stop until the Iranian nuclear capacity is degraded to zero. And if necessary, the US will get into the fray. I don't think that will be necessary. All that the Israelis will ask for is US supplies of adequate bunker busters and all that. And I don't believe they're going to be denied that, given the close security bonds between the US and Israel, especially during the term of President Trump.
Professor Naliphat, if we could just briefly touch on Donald Trump's decision making. He's given this 2 weeks to see if the US gets involved. What would happen if he didn't? We know that they have the military capabilities to penetrate this Fordo base in Iran. What are your thoughts if Donald Trump holds back from this war in the Middle East?
Look, I would be very surprised if Donald Trump is holding back on supplying the Israelis whatever they need to eliminate the nuclear capacity of clerical Iran. He has made that public, that that's what he wants. And I think it'll be much better for the United States if they don't get directly involved in the war, because they have a lot of assets across the region. And that is what is scaring many countries there, that US assets located in their territories is going to be under threat from the clerical regime in Iran. So I don't think Trump is in a hurry to get into the conflict directly. But I do believe he's going to keep Israel supplied so the Israelis can do the job. You remember in the Second World War, Winston Churchill said, to the United States, give us the tools and we will finish the job. That's exactly what Israel is saying to the United States now. Give us the necessary weapons and we'll finish the job of denuclearizing Iran.
Professor Madav Naliphat, thank you very much for